What is a hero? A mythological figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability? An illustrious warrior? No. It's a person admired for achievements and noble qualities, one who shows great courage. Welcome to the What's a Hero podcast, where we dive deep into what a hero is and what makes them that hero. I'm your host, Ken Frownfelter, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the world's most likely and unlikely heroes. You may have never heard of them before, and they most likely have never met you. But they all have one thing in common. They are ready to do whatever it takes to help make you better, even if it means sacrificing everything for you. Let's get into it.
This is episode 70 of the What's a Hero podcast with me, Ken Frownfelter. If we all did the things we are capable of doing, we would literally astound ourselves. And that's a quote by Thomas Edison. And we all know who Thomas Edison is and what he developed and what he invented and all the things that he did that actually gave us the ability to do the things that we're doing now. But if you think about the idea of that we don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we do. Adversely, we also don't consider everything that we do, how that affects other people. And I've said it before on here, and I'll say it again, the ability for you to drop that pebble in a pond and where those ripples go, it becomes beyond you at some point. But you understand that all those ripples, they're going to touch somebody else's life some way, somehow. And what we need to remember and what we need to understand is that everything we do affects somebody else. And on the other side of that you can do so many different things that you don't give yourself credit for, and that you would even surprise yourself in the process. That being said, today's guest is a gentleman in whom I've met that he's seen what people are capable of, and he's seen the effect that they have had on other people's lives. And not only that, but he's also we're going to be looking at some things that he's done in which it's from a different angle. We see it, let's say the first responder world and police in general, we see things from it's us versus them. And a lot of times them, and I'm talking them as far as administration or internal affairs or whatever the case is, and a lot of times those guys from internal affairs or whatever are not necessarily out to get you in the fact that, or the way that we think they are. They're doing something. They're doing a totally different job that they need to do. With that in mind, though, we're going to try to take a look at that other angle and look at things from that different perspective. So if you would join me in welcoming to the show Marlon Marachi, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
See, I didn't want to go too Italian, but that's where we're at. So, Marlon, you were 24-year police veteran, correct?
That's correct. A month into retirement and loving it.
And that was with LAPD. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
my beloved LAPD. Yes.
Yeah. And so you spent 15 years as a sergeant, and you completed an assignment in IA, and an associate advocate conducting board of rights hearings and to officer representation section defending police officers. Correct?
That's correct.
So it's not just all the internal affairs, IA, they're after me, they're whatever. It's you are on the other side of it where you're defending these guys, or they're getting into the infernal repairs, is asking them questions, and now you're like, okay, well, here's what your options are, buddy, right?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I was at officer rep section as a defense representative, and I just happened to do an admin appeal for an officer who had a couple of sustained allegations, and he actually felt that it didn't occur. This didn't happen because the adjudication of sustained, what the department's saying is that it actually occurred.
Right.
And so what I always tell officers, when you get served, what we call the Skelly process, but when you get served, with an internal affairs complaint by your commanding officer, you know what? Read it with a fine-tooth comb. Read it from A to Z, soup to nuts. And if those allegations that they framed against you and that they adjudicated against you, if you feel that it didn't happen, it didn't occur, you know what? Give me a call and we'll go ahead and appeal it. And so I actually did an admin appeal for this one particular officer where I think it was 2 allegations sustained. We did an admin appeal hearing and we got it overturned by the hearing officer to unfounded. However, it's not binding, these admin appeals. So we had to go and sell it to the chief of police.
Right.
And at the time, Chief Bratton, in the 7 years that he was in command at LAPD, he only overturned 3 admin appeals. And lucky me, this case was one of them.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty
and
cool.
So I developed a relationship with the lieutenant, the officer in charge of the advocate section in internal affairs. And by the way, the advocate section is strictly, and its purpose is just to pretty much be a prosecutorial, type of a role of a sergeant. You're representing the chief of police, and all you're doing is doing admin appeals and border rights hearings, which we'll get into later. Those are civil trials. And so, with my charming personality, he offered me a Sergeant 2 spot, which is an upgrade. It's like a promotion.
Right.
Again, in internal affairs, you have to be a Sergeant 2, even though they have loans for Sergeant 1s, but Sergeant 2 being, the bonus position. And he offered me a job straight into the advocate section. Normally, when you get hired in internal affairs, you become an investigator. You're an IO. You investigate all these personnel complaints,
right.
Public and internal. But yeah, that's how I ended up in internal affairs. And from there on, I did about, I want to say I probably prepped for about north of 40 cases, and I put on about 30 plus border rights hearings.
Wow. In
a little over 4 years. And we'll talk more about that. But thanks cool. Thanks for the intro.
That's cool. So you before you'd done that though, you were just policeman on the street, patrol guy, right? Is that right?
I was a patrol guy. I went on a Friday from working up streets here in the San Fernando Valley, as you know.
Sure.
We call it, we have an A car, which is a 2-man unit. Here I am patrolling the streets of my beloved San Fernando Valley. And then I was 19, what was I? Let's see, 10 Adam 87. And then come Monday, I get promoted to sergeant and I end up in Venice over there in Pacific as 14L60 in a matter of 72 to 96 hours. And I did my probationary period as a sergeant out in the streets.
Wow.
Responding to radio calls, man. Come Friday night and Saturday night, I tell you, man.
Yeah, it's especially down in Venice. That's a different world right there, a different planet.
Not only that, I think after 6 p.m., the good old song from back in the days, the freaks come out at night, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything after 6 p.m., that radio, you're chasing the radio, man. Right. I mean, you're pushing the sled, chasing the radio. I remember there was times would I help on my officers and I would tell, dispatch, hey, you know what, 1406 to go ahead and load me up. All the non-coded calls like, loud parties.
Yeah, something
little
that
disputes.
You can go and kind of just spray a little water on and hopefully they mellow out. But,
Yeah. And the thing is that I'm so used to being in a 2-man unit, and God bless and I praise all these L cars, all these 1-man unit, being alone. An adjustment after 9 years of being, in patrol. I spent, I want to say about good 5 or 6 years out in the streets. And then I did a whole bunch of different assignments as a police officer before I got promoted to sergeant. But with that being said, for 24 years, even in the academy, it's just embedded in you that, you're going to have a partner. You're always going to have a partner.
Oh, really? Yeah.
You do a traffic stop, your cover, your contact.
Especially down there. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, and I want to say back in my days, A-cars was pretty unique. Not many agencies
really
have that. With that being said, I totally get the fact that, hey, if you're working an L-car, a 1-man unit in a small agency, and you go to this call where you think that, it's pretty suspicious that it might escalate to something else, obviously you're going to get on the air and call your partner and come and, with you to deal with that particular incident. But again, it was weird being alone, driving alone.
Yeah,
that's the point.
Most law enforcement agencies in the country are that. They're the one-man unit, and they get another car come to back them up. But down in L.A., I can't imagine wanting to be in a car by yourself down there. You need that second set of eyes just for watching your back.
That's right.
Totally different world. So where did this come from? Who was little Marlon? Who was this little guy that ran around? What did he want to do? What was his thing? Little
Marlon ran around with a soccer ball, bro. I'm a soccer dude.
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Peru. And let me tell you something. If you're from Peru, whoever's listening, anybody from South America can relate to this. Soccer is like a religion to us. So if I would have stayed home before I came here in 1980, I probably would have ended up being a professional soccer player.
Wow.
I played for the
time, just kicking a ball, always had a ball next to you, right?
That was me, man. I just can't get enough of it, and it's in my blood. It's something I'm very, very passionate about, which is one of several reasons why I decided to pull the pin. Is I am a high school varsity coach at a local private school here in Burbank. Pretty challenging, and I've been playing all my life.
Right.
But I can still give you 90 there, Ken. I can go out in the pitch right now and give you 90, but I tell you what, probably the next day I'm going to regret it. So,
so you played. Soccer was your thing. You were outside with a ball all the time, and growing up playing with your friends and stuff like that, kicking the ball. And so you grew up in Peru, or did you? When did you come to the United States?
I grew up in Peru until I was 12 years old. And then mom was already here establishing herself in Los Angeles. And dad pretty much said, hey, you either stay here or you go to LA, California. Let's see. Los Angeles, California, United States, here in Peru. You know what?
Yeah. And this
love you, Dad.
This was the mid-80s, early 80s?
This would be December of 1980.
Yeah. So there's no question there. Yeah,
you're 12 years old, man. You're like, you know what, Dad?
Seen movies, seen TV. You don't see Peru in a lot of movies. You see California, you see LA in movies though. Yeah.
Yeah. And Machu Picchu is one of those 7 wonders, right, of the world.
Sure.
And, I'm guilty of haven't even visited yet. So I got to go and do that. But my point is I went from Lima, Peru to Los Angeles, and my dad was a retired. He passed away in 2007, but he spent 32 years in the Peruvian Navy and retired as an admiral. So,
wow. Yeah. And so your mom, she was up here. So they were separated, I'm assuming.
Correct. They were divorced. Yeah.
Mom comes up to L.A.
Yes.
Dad stays down in Lima, continuing the Navy, and you go ahead and move up with her. And you're 12 years old. What was the difference? What was that big
culture shock? Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. So, for one, obviously, the language barrier was huge. There was a point in time where I believe, I think I was here for like about a year and a half, where I was able to learn a little bit of English. And then I went back home, like late 70s. And then come 1980, it was permanent. My neighbor, this white guy who just tried to figure out, he had a mitt and he was throwing a tennis ball up against his wall. And I was just like, what are you doing? What is this? And he actually figured out that I was left-handed. So he bought me a baseball mitt and we started just throwing the ball around. We lived across the street from the park and I just madly fell in love with baseball.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, when I was here in 77 for that year and a half, 77, 78, I madly fell in love with the Yankees. That's the World Series, Dodgers, Yankees back to back. And I always picture myself wanting to be the next Louisiana Lightning, which is Ron Guidry, because I'm a left-handed guy. He's a left-handed pitcher. And I thought I was a good pitcher. But I bring all that up to say that how we actually connected was through
baseball.
Through baseball. Yeah. And then next, I learned,
So did he teach English. You a bunch of your English?
He taught me a lot of my English, but I mean, English has become, so popular for me, so smooth and confident for me that it has become my first language.
Oh,
it's supposed to be my second language.
Yeah.
And so
you didn't take any specific classes or anything. It was just watching TV and talking to this guy and him helping you with your words and things like that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Mom sending Michael Jackson, records, when I was in Peru, and
Uh-huh.
my brother and I we would lip sync, and of course we didn't know what we were saying, but yeah,
Sure.
it's somehow, some way we knew it was English.
Sure. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So you get in there, you're with this guy, you're throwing the ball, you're 12 years old in 1980 down in LA. You're trying to figure out, this whole different shift now. And then you get to that point where now you're in school, and are you trying to figure out what you're going to do? Because 12 years old, you're starting middle school, then you're going to start getting into high school pretty quick, or did you have any idea what you wanted to do, or was it just I'm just going to finish school, I'm just in the moment?
I'm going to finish school. I just got to play sports, dude.
Yeah.
That's all I really cared about. There is that, having to reflect on life. The absent father is such a huge role in kids.
Yeah.
We have a lot of that here in Los Angeles, and I'm sure throughout the nation.
Sure.
Because fathers do provide guidance. They do provide a lot of, support and strength, tough love, all that sorts of stuff. So for me, it was very inconsistent, because I didn't have that father figure. I mean, my mom remarried to my stepfather, and unfortunately, he wasn't a really good role model whatsoever, to the point where he left my mom and my sister, my brother, my two sisters and my brother, basically 4 kids out in the streets. And my mom had to, get us an apartment and just work her ass off. So she managed to work, I think at some point, 3 jobs. So my mom was never really there to oversee and guide me, which is the reason why I bring all this up, to really head in the right direction. So I wasn't that kid that said, hey, I'm going to go to high school, and then, I'm going to leave the college campus life, go to college,
right.
Get a major and be passionate about something and move on. It didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. Were you the oldest?
No, I'm the youngest of my originals. So I got a brother who's 2 years older than me, and a sister who just passed away from terminal cancer last year.
Oh, wow.
Who was 4 years. Yeah. It was tough. Who passed away last year, who's 4 years older than me. And then I have a younger sister from my mom's second marriage who's 10 years younger than me. So your mom's is mother of 3, trying to figure it out and working 3 jobs. You guys are living, I'm assuming, a little apartment or whatever in LA. Yeah.
And you never saw her, your latchkey kid, right? Which was a little bit easier back then. I remember being one, being a latchkey. You come home from school, your parents aren't home, you do your homework, you go out and play, and maybe get your own
you know how
dinner
that
too.
goes. Well, I mean, it's all about your friends, right? Monkey see, monkey do, peer influence.
Right.
Mom's just working, and mother of 4. Yeah, she's just she's doing what she has to do to make us survive, which gives me that really great image of women. To me, women, have so much strength and so much dedication as far as being parents. So,
right.
My mom is my hero, man.
That's cool because you, the fact that you were able to do that, you see that, and then kind of grow up in a fatherless home for a little while where you don't, you don't have that idea, but you just go. And you hear so many things out there that are, fatherless children and single mothers and all this different stuff. And then you worry about how the kids are going to grow up or what kind of influences they're getting, because you could have easily been influenced by the wrong people, pick up with the wrong group or wrong friends or something like that. And you could easily been going down a totally different path than one you did go down.
Correct. All I wanted to do is at 17, at 16, 17, my friends, my circle of friends, my closest friends were all surfers. So, the Valley.
Sure. Yeah.
We had to go, I learned how to surf in County Line in Malibu and Topanga, and surfing was just something that I really dedicated myself to do because, I wanted to go out there and rip just like everybody else.
Right.
So to me, it was just work, surf, play basketball, and go out and, hang out with your friends, and then come 21, go clubbing, man, and have good times.
So did you, when you're ending school and you're getting in your senior year, the end of your senior year, were you thinking about what you wanted to do afterward, or were you just kind of letting wherever the ball bounces, that's where you're going?
I'm a high school dropout, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my last year, senior year, I just got sick and tired of asking my mom for money, just to have and, to go out and, buy clothes and treat myself.
Right.
I decided to go work, and we worked from there. And let's see, from 17, fast forward to 24 years old. So that's 7 years. I managed to get my GED and my high school diploma, and I captain gown and walked on stage.
Wow.
Only because I decided to join the Navy at 24, 25 years old, which was pretty, I'm one of those late bloomer type of guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were just aimlessly going through life from that 17 to 24 then, huh?
17 to 24, you know what? I would never change anything that I've gone through because it makes me who I am today. I can tell you that all my life experiences, the trauma and the tragedy and all that adversity that you face in your personal life, made me a one hell of a cop to handle any type of incident or radio call. But it was the best times, man. You know what? After 7 years, my best friend, talk about influences. And this is the journey, right? My best friend, who I grew up with, we're together every single day. Two of my best friends,
right?
But one in particular, he always had this idea about becoming a cop. And, he said he went on a ride along. I joined the Navy. He went on a ride along, and he was all pumped. And so in my last year in the Navy, he was already in the academy going through probation. And he was the one that told me, you have to do this. This is a great gig.
Really?
You got to make it happen. And so I didn't want to re-enlist because I miss my family. I miss home.
Sure.
And so I had a lot of concerns about being a cop, going into law enforcement. I think, for one, I always questioned myself, do you really want to carry a gun and, for, 20 plus years? And, what's that going to be like? What if you get into this controversial shooting and, do you want to live like that? Those were the thoughts that were going through my mind, putting my life on the line and all that. But once I saw him go through what he did, and I actually went to apply and took the written test, man, that became all those fears and concerns suddenly turn into dedication, motivation,
right?
And I was pumped, and I really wanted to do this, and and here we are, Ken, 24 plus years later, right?
So you did 4 years in the Navy, and then when you got us at 24, so 28, you're applying for LAPD, is that correct?
Yeah. I did little over 3 years in the Navy. I got out in 1997, October of 97. I was already in the process with the LAPD. And then come July of 1998 is when I got accepted to I got an appointment to the police academy.
That's cool. And so you go into that and no problems with the academy, right?
No, it was the academy. Oh gosh, you know what? The academy was probably the funnest times I ever had, because I knew that come 3 o'clock or, I was going to go home.
Right.
As opposed to boot camp.
Right. I thought the same thing. There's that militaristic side of it, but you get to go home at the end of the day, or
you get to go home, man, because in the Navy, let's see, Great Lakes, Illinois is where I was at.
Oh,
we used to call it Great Mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you choose the Navy kind of because that's what your dad had done?
Yes, absolutely. Wouldn't choose anything else because of my dad.
Yeah. And so you do that. What were you in the Navy? What did you do?
Interesting you say that, how it all comes full circle. So in the Navy, I was an airman apprentice. I didn't know what rate I wanted to do. I ended up in an aircraft carrier, and I started chalking and chaining all these planes. Let me tell you, man, 16, 18-hour days forever.
Really?
Talk about work ethics.
And so that's a different color, like shirt and vest. Is that right? That's what you?
Yeah. So I was a blue shirt. Then you have your yellow shirts. So I was in the hangar bay. The real deal is on the flight deck.
Right.
You have the green shirts to take care of all the systems, to launch planes. The purple shirts that take care of all the gasoline and all that fuel stuff. the red shirts, which is the hazard, guys, and then the yellows, which is a director. So the job was to, hey, I want to be a director because this sounds like such a cool job.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't know. I just ended up in an aircraft carrier, and I still didn't know what I want to do. But in the Navy at the time, you can only be an apprentice for like a year, maybe a year and a half. I think max maybe 2 years before you actually strike. Is what they call striking. Mm-hmm. You have to strike for a rate. In other words, you got to pick and choose a specific rate.
Right.
So I went from the hangar bay up to the tower, and I started doing air operations with the air boss and the mini boss.
Uh-huh.
They used to call us tower flowers.
Okay.
Because we just hung out there, drank coffee, and did air ops.
Yeah, but you're not out in the sun or out in the weather, and you're in air conditioning. You
had to be chosen, and people were, people were jealous and envious, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up doing that, and then at some point, don't ask me how, but I ended up in legal. So I worked for the JAG.
Oh, okay.
And that's where it all started.
Yeah.
I prepare cases for court martials. I prepare cases for non-judicial punishments, also known as captain's mass. Mm-hmm. And I did that for the remaining time of in the Navy. And so if you really think about it, that's where that connection where discipline comes in, in my career. I did this in the 90s, and here we are 30 plus years later. And I'm all about the disciplinary matters.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is. So you get into law enforcement, mm-hmm. and was it what you thought it was going to be? Was it a little bit different? Was there similarities with the Navy, or exactly what your buddy had said, or what was your experience when you first got in there?
What I can tell you is my first day was a nerve. I drove, and I was driving into the station, and I just kept telling myself, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this, because this is the real deal.
Yeah.
And for all you listening out there, if you have a partner or a buddy that's telling you that, it's no big deal, and you're not nervous,
right?
You know what? In my opinion, they're lying to you,
right?
Because you are a nervous wreck. Of course, people react to nervousness in different ways, mm-hmm. but I was just a wreck. Granted, I was the 3 C's, right? Cool, calm, and collective, right?
I try to be on the outside.
On the outside, exactly. Sure. We have a probationary period for a whole year. So I recall they would always tell us, look, you're a temporary employee. You have to get through your probationary period. That means is that you have no vested rights. So if you do something wrong, whether it's on duty or off duty, mm-hmm. they can fire you without cause.
Right.
And so for me, I really, had, I was very cautious, but during your probationary period, at the 6-month mark, you go from phase 2 to phase 3, which basically means that, look, we're confident enough to know that you can kind of do the basics, basic essential job functions of a police officer. Uh-huh. And it was at that time where someone found out to play soccer. They wanted me to try for the soccer team. And of course, I thought to myself, okay, if I go play and I get injured, then my probationary period is going to get extended.
So the LAPD soccer team?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, of course, I couldn't say no. I couldn't say no at all. Yeah. And I went out there, I played on probation, and, quite an experience. It's not what I expected. However, having to look back now, when I first started, mm-hmm. I certainly didn't have a problem. I was 29, 30 years old. I have a lot of life experience.
Right.
Where my classmate, who was barely even 22 years old, a bit sheltered, was my classmate who did his probationary period with me.
Sure.
Probably came from a family that's not dysfunctional,
right?
That doesn't have hasn't gone through a divorce or has had any trauma, or seen any trauma. He really struggled, where me at a radio call, I got the confidence enough to know how to, what we call in today's, de-escalate, situations, right?
We should call that talk them down.
Well, interesting you say that. I've been talking to Scott Savage, who I met. Yeah, Scott and I
just had him on a couple podcasts ago.
Scott. I went to go visit Scott in one of his training courses up north.
Great guy.
He's awesome. Him and Dan are just superb when it comes to training.
Yeah.
We were talking in lunch about, because we're talking about de-escalation. I told him, hey, man, back in my days in tactics, they used to call it ATD. And he goes, they used to call it ATM because we come from the same era. And I'm like, yeah. So back in the days, it's ask, tell, and do.
Right.
That's the way it goes, brother.
Right.
Hey, put your hands behind your head. No, I'm not going to do that. F you. Okay. Yeah. I'm telling you to put your hands behind your head, interlace your fingers, spread your legs.
Right.
Nope. I'm not going to do that. F you. Okay. And guess what? Now I'm in. I'm doing it.
Guess what guess what you're going to do. Yeah. There, I had a guy tell me a long time ago, years ago when I was getting started. He goes, let's say you got an 18-year-old blonde that's drunk, you're having to deal with her, arrest her, whatever. Do you say, bend over and spread your legs, or do you say lean forward at the waist and separate your feet? And I said, oh, that's okay. Yeah, I guess with all the cameras, you do have to say things a certain way so you can, there's no question about what you're requesting, and so when you say, do it now, that's always what I think about is bend over and spread your legs, or or lean forward and separate your feet. So,
and I'm sure we'll get into it later, but talk about changes, and Scott and I and Dan, we were having that conversation where, hey, look, police work is not what it was 25 years ago. It's completely different, and of course, body worn video being one of the tools that has worked ever since 2015, it's been implemented. Mm-hmm. And, one of the advice that I definitely would give young officers is that, just turn it on. Because we are going to talk about IA, and I'm going to tell you right now, my beloved LAPD failed to deactivate as an allegation. It really is.
Yeah.
And if you do it once, and you do it twice, and you do it one more time, you will have some penalty repercussions, so to speak.
Right.
But if you turn it on, be that colorful commentator on ESPN, man. That's me.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Just turn.
Yeah,
that's what I'll do. Say hi, good evening. Today, here it's me, Sergeant Marachi, and we're here on June 4th, 2022.
Sunny afternoon.
It's sunny afternoon, and we're dealing with Mr. Johnson here, who happens to be very uncooperative. Mr. Johnson, hey, how are you doing today? And just and keep going.
Yeah, if you
no one's going to fault you for that.
You might as well have fun with it,
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, and I'll tell people, because I'm a trainer also, and I'll tell people, just put it on and just be yourself. Just do what you do. If you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, it's good to know about that anyways, but just be yourself and just treat people with respect, and it's not an issue. I mean, but most of the time I forget that it's on. And before you know it, I'm walking down to the hallway, walking into the bathroom, and then somebody mentions, hey, your camera's on. Oh, well, I'm glad I didn't get too far into this. You know?
Yes.
But that's sometimes the idea. Sometimes that's what happens. So, so you're going through all that. You're trying to figure out what you're going to do. Did you have a good idea of like, hey, I want to follow this career path, or were you just, I'm getting in a car and I'm going to go arrest bad guys?
Well, yeah, that was it, man. Look, I didn't come on the job to write tickets.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, traffic enforcement is one thing, but
glorified
for me,
tax
it was the chase,
collector.
Man. We used to call it license plate lotto, man. We used to just run cars all friggin' shift, dude.
Yeah.
And when it comes back stolen, that's it, man. That's the jackpot.
Yeah.
9 out of 87. Please, requesting an airship in the back because we're following a code 37 vehicle. Oh, when you hear that, everybody just, I mean, that's what it's about.
Everybody went that way, huh?
Oh yeah, code 37. So that was it. Shooting in progress. What's interesting is that, even today, mm-hmm. right? And this is that it's that saying in our culture that we are trained to go to the problem.
Right.
A lot of people are trained. Well, they're not even trained. A normal Joe,
right,
is going to run away from the problem.
Well, what do they tell kids now for like active shooters and active assailant and stuff like that in school? Run, hide, fight. You either run, you hide, or you fight. And running, it means find the door and get gone, as opposed to. And so, everybody is, you go away they never say run towards the gunfire so you can go help stop it or intervene. That's not but that's what they expect us to do, which is fine, which is what we know we sign up for.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrol is where you get all your experience. Some people love it. They love the schedule. They love the seniority. It works for them. It works for their family. But I was one of those that it's just, I'm a little antsy. I get a little impatient. I learn something real quick and then I move on. So in my career, I've done a lot of different assignments. I had a taste for undercover operations, which I did. I worked the gun unit in an undercover capacity. I worked, I was a chase car for this, all these UCs who went out and really somehow, some way found suspects that actually go to mall and just steal stuff, dude. That was, yeah, they had a knack for it. Of course, when I first got to the unit, we're the uniform car. We call it a chase car, meaning when it's time to do the takedown, they'll call us, to do the actual takedown.
Right.
But of course, when I first got there, I'm like going, these guys are not that good. I mean, and next, hey, yeah, we're following, we got a subject, we got a target, we're following. And I'm like, really? And next, it's real. And it was, yeah. I mean, we're very good at my partners at the time are very good at what they do. So I had a knack for all that stuff. But what really hit me the most is when I got promoted to sergeant, did my patrol time as sergeant. I got called in to do a community program by a deputy chief and a commander. And it was at that time where I was finishing up my undergrad. And for whatever reason, my brother had a big influence on me wanting to go to law school. My best friend had a big influence for me wanting to go to law school. And then I had an actual partner who worked in homicide saying that, hey, let's go take the LSAT. And so it was at that time when I was interested in going to law school is when I got into officer rep section, defending and representing cops. And
wow.
So,
and this is all from a high school dropout.
This is all from a high school dropout, brother.
High school dropout who later on, years later, decides, okay, I'll get my GED. You know what? I think I don't just want my GED. I'm going to get my diploma. Okay, I'm going to go in the Navy now, and I'm going to do some stuff. You know what? I'm going to get out, and I'm going to go into LAPD, which is the safest city in the whole wide world. and then I'm gonna start doing all these different things. I'm gonna just love getting into chase, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get into the one thing every cop despises, and that's internal affairs.
Yes, the Rat Squad.
That's right.
That's us. Absolutely.
Like I said before, but I got from Lethal Weapon, the Infernal Repairs.
The Infernal Repairs. That's right. Yep.
So what was that? The decision to do that, was there any kind of back and forth on it, or was it,
No.
what, this is what I think? I think this is what I want to do.
You know what? I love the challenge. I love the stage. I have no problem presenting a particular case. I just felt that at the time, it's a unique fraternity of sergeants that actually do this. Not many of us have done that. And it's tough. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the most emotional assignments absent work in the child abuse unit, which is a whole different, conversation and a whole different feeling.
Right.
But for me, I would say it's definitely one of the most highest emotional assignments probably in the entire department, because you're representing the chief of police, and your job, as I was told by my beloved lieutenant who told me, hey, Marlon, you know what? These are just hearings, just present what you have to present and don't really think of it as a prosecutorial role. And you know what? I beg to differ. It is. I'm prosecuting cops.
Right.
Let's keep it real and let's be transparent. But what I would say, Ken, is no partner of mine or yours or anyone who's listening in law enforcement wants a bad actor in their organization. And
correct.
so the stakes are high, because as an advocate putting on these boards, working in internal affairs, I was always under the belief that it's got to be pretty serious. It's got to be some serious allegations like false statements, misleading statements, fraud, perjury, and other criminal offenses where you're going to get your best bang for your buck in this assignment.
Right.
Unfortunately, and, I always do this in every interview is, I have this bashing session about my beloved IA because I'm an IA alumni.
Right.
We don't always get it right. And you know what? I think I can speak for a lot of departments.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always get it right. And that's where we get the bad reputation.
Right. Now, you were saying that it's very emotional, and I can imagine why on one end, but is it because you get so personal with this person or you see their dreams, their career, their hopes possibly being taken away from them because this is what they've been wanting for their whole life, is be a cop?
It's the latter. Absolutely. It's emotional from a sense that you're facing termination.
Yeah.
And you can only imagine what you're going through. You're going to lose everything that everything, your pension. You're probably going to go through a divorce. You're not going to have a salary that you are very comfortable with, that pays for the bills and takes care of your family.
Mm-hmm.
And so the stakes are so high where you're looking at this individual and you're just like, you can't help but to feel, not so much disappointment, but you just feel a lot of empathy, Right. And for me, it's different. It was very challenging for me on a personal level because I'm very outgoing. I'm very witty. I have a great positive attitude. And right. I always tell people, you got to laugh at least once every day.
Yeah.
You got to have fun, man.
And if you're going through something
laugh.
like that heavy, you may not be laughing about anything at all.
One, two, I tend to smirk and laugh. It's a way of dealing with my emotions, but right. There's nothing fun or laughable at a border rights hearing. So for me, it was a big change.
So you said you were defending most of the time, correct? Or
no, at that time in internal affairs, I was prosecuting.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Then before I got to internal affairs, I got offered this job.
I see.
In internal affairs. Now, defending cops, I actually went back for my second tour, which is why it gives me, I don't know, I want to say about north of 10 years, close to about 12 years of this police disciplinary matters experience that I have under my belt. Mm-hmm. It's because when I went back, no any different when I was first at ORS, is we took care of cops. And, here we go. It's the fact that we get it wrong. We get it wrong because the quality and the commitment of an IO, most of the time being IA, that sergeant that's supposed to be investigating, doesn't really follow my theory and what I've always learned that I'm a true believer is Dakota's, that no stone goes unturned.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of stones that are not turned. And you can have way more fun on cross-examination in the defense, when the IO is testifying, right. As opposed to being the prosecution. And, sometimes I wouldn't even invite the IO because the case is just really poor quality investigating,
really?
And it's your product. And so you're up and you got these board members looking at you like, hey man, this guy's facing some serious charges and this is what you got, so.
Obviously we know there are some of the stuff that you would investigate, your dirty cop that's on the take, mm-hmm. or the, was it complaints from citizens saying, hey, when he was in my house investigating whatever, he took, some money from a drawer, or, stuff like that? Or was it, what were some of the things that, a lot of times were put on the table here for.
Right. So first and foremost, let me kind of explain what the process is like. To my understanding, we're the only agency. I haven't gotten a call or no one's messaged me on LinkedIn or no one's told me yet that they have the same process by which we go through when it comes to serious allegations of misconduct for accused employees. So the border rights process was adopted back in the 60s from the border inquiries of the United States Navy, my beloved United States Navy, mm-hmm. Because Chief Parker at the time, I want to say before he became chief, he was a lieutenant JAG in the Navy.
Right.
And so when he retired and became chief of police of Los Angeles back in the 60s, and you remember the movie LA Confidential, LA is probably the most corrupt agency, probably in the entire nation. So he decided to implement this particular hearing process because his philosophy was, you know what, if we're going to jam and discipline our own, we got to do it our way and keep it in-house. So I'm going to have this process, which you can plead guilty or not guilty. It's like a civil trial.
Right.
So if you're brought up on serious allegations of misconduct, the chief of police will say, look, I'm going to direct you to this board of rights hearing. This board of rights hearing has a 3-panel member. You can choose one of the following. You can choose the traditional way, which is 2 command staff officers and a civilian, or you can choose a 3-panel member of all civilians. It's really up to you. Now, I'm directing you. They're going to hear all this evidence. They're going to hear all this testimony. They do, opening arguments, the whole nine. The plaintiff, the prosecution is going to rest. The department's going to rest. I shouldn't say prosecution as much, but the department's going to rest. The defense is going to rest, and they're going to deliberate for findings. Now, any other agency in the state of California, and I think this is probably the way it is probably across the nation, is if you get brought up on some serious allegations, you're probably going to get called in the chief's office, and the chief's is going to say, look, man, hey, you're a good dude, Ken, but I got to let you go, man. I'm firing you. And so now you got to go through civil service, a whole bunch of appeals, maybe file a wrongful termination lawsuit and litigate, who knows, just to get your job back. And so with this board of rights hearing process, if you're found guilty on just one allegation, one charge, you move into the penalty phase. And in the penalty phase, you have 2 portions, one being your package review, and then the second portion being character witnesses. So once that occurs, they're going to deliberate for penalty. If the board panel, right, the board of rights hearing panel members actually recommend removal, it's a recommendation to the chief of police, and he or she has the option to, I'm going to go ahead and remove him and fire him, terminate him, or they can actually reduce the penalty. But what and that's pretty much it.
Right.
Under the charter, we cannot, in the city of Los Angeles, you cannot up the penalty. You can't increase it. Okay. So let's just say let's just say you have a board of rights and for whatever reason you're found guilty on 2 counts and the board members recommend 15-day suspension. And here the chief thought that, what are you talking about? I wanted to fire this guy.
Right.
Guess what? He cannot increase it.
Okay. I see.
All he can do is just reduce it.
Well,
and so that's what the process is.
Let's go with 8 days because that's probably
he'll probably say, and at times it's just that.
Yeah.
My last tour as a defense rep under the new chief that we have, I did 5 admin appeals and I was 4-1. I mean, 4 of them we actually overturned. Now the admin appeals is a little bit different because it's not binding, like I said earlier. So you get a sustained complaint and we go do this admin appeal in front of one hearing officer, which is a civilian. And the civilian says, you're right, defense. You know what? I'm going to overturn this and make this unfounded. And now you got to go to the chief's office and sell it. It's like having another little hearing. And the chief's going to say, what are you talking about? What happened? Well, and you know what? The chief has been pretty lenient, a lot of leniency because he actually adopts that decision,
right.
So things have changed for the better.
And being separated, being removed from the process and everything else, he just gets the findings, and then he can kind of make a detached decision as opposed to in the thick of it and getting the emotional side of it, like you were talking about before and stuff like that, right?
Yes, but the only issue, that I suppose, like you said, it's kind of funky. It's kind of strange is, let's just say you and I just promoted the captain.
Yeah.
Right. And we get chosen for this board of rights.
Okay.
And the chief is recommending removal. Right.
Right.
And here we are, we listen to all this testimony. We examine all this evidence that has been introduced and admitted into the board. And guess what, man? It's just not there.
Right.
I mean, the standard of proof is preponderance. We all know that. It's supposed to be 51%, right? More likely than not. But when you start talking about false statements and serious allegations, serious misconduct,
right?
We like to tend to think that we want to crank that up even more. We want to crank that up to like 80 or 90% because here's the deal, Ken. you have to be extremely sure, department, that what you're alleging against this accused employee has to be solid. In other words, because she said something and he said something, you know what? That's not going to cut it.
There has to be video or multiple people pointing to this direction and whatever.
If you lied, if you're a liar,
yeah,
you know what? You better bring in, some really, really good evidence as to why the department believes that he lied, he or she lied. And you better bring in some witnesses, not just one. You better bring in a lot and tell me that, yes, this person is a liar.
Right.
Why? Because, again, the stakes are extremely high. This is an individual, an officer who has worked his entire career, and he's about to lose it all. And it's going to have such an effect on his personal life, emotionally, financially, et cetera. So that's what I always say, or what I said earlier, is that we don't always get it right. Out of the 30 plus border rights that I've done, 5 of them have been legit,
really
righteous. All the other 25 are those where, you know what, we conclude the board and I'm sitting there gathering all the documents and leaving, and the board members look at me and say, hey, Marlon, anybody think about settling this? Because we just got done spending 3 or 4 days of listening to just,
the contrary to what the accusation is.
Yeah. Not only that, I mean, what kind of evidence you got, man? This is sloppy work. It's, not good quality. And you wasted my time. I'd rather be commanding my division, taking care of my people, instead of spending 3 or 4 days here hearing all this nonsense.
Right. And so what were some of the, I guess I know you can't probably maybe go into super detail, but like what, generality wise, what were some of the accusations that were made?
I get asked this a lot. I've been doing, I get asked that in the last podcast I did as well. And one host actually mentioned the word untruthfulness, which is pretty much spot on.
Yeah.
Look, in order for you to end up at a border rights hearing, you really got to work your ass off. Let me just put it to you like that. And normally it has to be off duty. Because here's the deal. Let's just take you and I, for example, right? So, you got 15 years. I have 24, right? So that's what? That's close to almost, we're looking at 39, 40 years.
Right.
We have 40 years of experience listening to all these testimony and gathering all these evidence that we're going to examine and analyze.
Right.
I mean, come on, dude. You and I have been around.
Sure.
So everything that I'm hearing, I'm like, really? Come on, man. Yeah. I've been there. I've done that. It's really that serious. So what I always say is that the department's pretty forgiving when it comes to on-duty related stuff.
Okay.
I want to make sure we make that clear. It's the off-duty behavior that's going to be completely under the scope, where you're going to get scrutinized and really, really judged.
So it's like the
heavily
drunk driving stuff, or the
you get a DUI and lie about it.
Right.
So now, but interestingly enough, if you lie, guess what, man? Lying is not something that you learned being a cop.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
We teach you what? We teach you report writing. We teach you tactics. We teach you.
Well, we teach you to be honest, because you're going to be up on the stand someday and you've got to tell the truth. And
exactly. So part of my, when I was an advocate, part of my phrase that I always pitch, in my closing argument is that the department has an expectation for you to be honest, for you to be trustworthy, truthful, forthright, and forthcoming.
Yeah.
And now we can even add transparent, so that's the expectation. And guess what? That's in your character.
Sure.
That has nothing to do with, and I don't know why, maybe culture kind of dictates as to why you would lie. I don't know. Maybe you're nervous. You don't want to tell the truth. And sometimes, I've had clients where I've prepped them and say, okay, look, dude, fall on the sword. You got to tell them what happened.
Right.
Bro, at the end of the day, you're going to get a sustained OR, official reprimand. That's paper penalty. If they give you more than paper penalty, like 5-day suspension, you know what? Come see me, dude. We'll go and appeal it and say that this penalty is completely, it's harsh. It's completely unfair.
Right.
But whatever you do, don't tell them that you were on First and Los Angeles Street and they know that you weren't even there at all.
Right. Right. There's cameras there. We know who was there at 3:00.
Telematics, the whole nine.
Right.
So
right.
So that's what I've seen the most. The most is unfortunately, it's within your character. I think false and misleading has been, the killer, of them all, right? The lethal allegation. Whether it happened on duty or off duty, it just varies. It depends on the circumstances.
Right.
But I've seen now, what type of cases have I put on and tried? Oh man, I've seen, you name it, tactics, use of forces where, you substantially deviated from, department policy and you had absolutely no justification why you did it, to the point where, and this, and we haven't really talked about that, but that was one of my main primary roles as a defense rep. We rolled out to a lot of these OISs. And so I can explain to you procedural, what happens from the time that you actually engage and use deadly force until the time that you're actually sent home. That whole process,
right,
including the sergeant that's at scene, that's supposed to give you command and control, the sergeant that's supposed to provide that PSS, that public safety statement, and then all your percipient witnesses who use non-lethal, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And in that process, if you're brought up on some disciplinary issues, then, you come see me, because again, it just, for whatever reason, in my experience, what I would think would be something very minor might not be seen as that by command staff.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have way too many levels of review.
Yeah. And so it's more so of things that you do, things that you get involved with, whatever, as opposed to, I guess you can get for things you say.
Yes. The things that you say will definitely have an impact, depending if you mislead the investigator or you just flat out lie.
Right.
Let's just say you have body worn video, use excessive force. Look, we watched the thing. You've watched it like 50 times, right, and you're still going to sit here compelled to give a statement and tell me that, no, that's not what I did.
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess, I know a guy that, he got in trouble, and not a cop, but it was under a normal investigation. He goes and he steals somebody's debit card. He goes to the ATM and uses that, pulls out $300 and takes a stripper out that he just met, and on that $300, and he goes and, well, he gets arrested on it, whatever, because obviously ATM have cameras, right? He gets arrested on this, and the whole thing comes about where they're like, hey, this is you. And he's like, oh, that's not me. Nope, not me. Well, a family member comes in and it's like, hey, this is the video we have. And so he looks at the video and goes, oh my gosh. And he looks over at him and says, that's you. He goes, no, that's not me. I know you. I've known you your whole life. That's you. And he could not admit that it was him, because there's just that, until there's absolutely, they are at the end of the rope, they may not admit that they are, the one that, there is evidence against.
Yeah.
And which is kind of weird that, that's just a regular criminal investigation. But when you start getting into, misconduct by a police officer in which they are adamant that, nope, that's not me. And yet there's more proof than you can imagine that it is you. That's kind of a bigger deal when they continue to lie on this topic. Correct? Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's the, that's the lethal allegation of them all, man. Right. But you know what? Now that we're really getting into the roots of this entire border rights process, I just want to make sure that your audience knows that I don't want to make it sound like, wow, man, Marlon's just really worked for just this agency that's just doing a whole bunch of these at the time that he was. No, as a matter of fact, it's not, because look at it this way. At the time that I was doing it, we had about 90, just let's put the numbers together, 9,700 sworn officers in the LAPD at that time. Okay. Now you're talking about what, 100 border rights a year. That's probably the most we've ever done.
Right.
Out of the 100, half of those, 50 of those are directed by the chief because he recommended termination. Right. So what are we really talking about? We're talking like what, 0.005% of the population that goes through this.
Right. Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And that's just border right hearings. If you bring something to somebody, there's an allegation, the person may be like, yeah, I did it. right? Did that ever happen?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So that goes to my other statistics that your audience, will definitely appreciate. Back in 2014 or 2015, I can't recall the exact year, but you're talking about on the average, 3,000, north of 3,000 complaints.
Wow.
Personnel complaints by the public.
By the public.
And internal.
Okay.
Yeah, public and internal, but majority of them are all public. 96.4 of all those complaints come back unfounded. So what does that tell you? Mm-hmm. That tells you that you really have to worry about that 4%. And that 4%, like you said, they'll say, yeah, I did it. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's just say you get an allegation for, I'll give you a perfect example. Your taser, right?
Right.
Your taser has to be by policy on your duty belt. Our Sam Brown is what we call it.
Right. Yeah.
Your duty belt, right?
Yeah.
So even if you got out a roll call and there's a hot shot and there's a 211 in progress and it's just laying there, mm-hmm. right, next to you, and you go and you handle business, guess what? That's sustained. Right. Because the policy says you got to have it on your duty belt.
Right.
Of course, they're all pissed off. Oh, I can't believe this department is doing this to me.
It's
this
just
is
a
unfair.
minimal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a minimal thing. That's bullshit, man. The department, blah, blah, blah. And, we're the evil, the rat squad. Right. You guys are out to get me. Look, dude, I can't even have an affirmative defense. There's not much that I can do for you. Mm-hmm. Now, is there mitigating circumstances? Yes. I can probably knock that down from a sustained to non-disciplinary actions could have been different, which is a good thing, right?
Sure.
Look, you know what? Hey, next time, make sure that it's on. That's the what do we call that? The employment development plan.
Right.
Hey, you know what? Next time when there's a 211 in progress, you're shooting right at a roll call, just kind of make sure that it's on your belt.
Yeah. Do a little tap of everything real quick and get it.
Exactly. Yeah. But my point is that there's just some things that are just going to be sustained and they're completely minor.
Right.
So that's part of that 4%. So when you look at the overall picture of misconduct, when it comes to my beloved LAPD, mm-hmm. We're good at what we do, man.
Yeah.
We're very, very good, So
is there that level then that somebody gets accused of whatever and then it's like, oh, it kind of gets blown up and it realizes there's not a lot of substance here. Let's go ahead and we're not going to do much. You might get a letter in your file or whatever the case is, as opposed to something. But it went through this whole big old thing and realized, okay, it's not really what we.
Right. And a lot has to do with culture, right?
Yeah.
It's what they call organizational culture. Uh-huh. It's what we call cop culture. Cop culture, in my belief, it dictates pretty much what you do and what you don't do, or what you feel, mm-hmm. right? I mean, not a lot, but I should say, I don't know, some cops, I shouldn't say a lot, do feel that if it's that minor, they're all butthurt about it and they think the department's out to get them.
Right.
And then some cops are like, yeah, not a problem. Okay, you know what? Whatever. I should have had it on my belt, or yeah.
Yeah, when in reality, okay, I see where in the policy it says don't do this or do this, and yet I didn't, or I did do this, and I get it. Nope, you're right, I did that. And so that's when it kind of just gets deflated as far as we're just going to put a letter or we're going to give you a verbal reprimand.
Yeah, we'll give you a verbal, we'll give us some counseling, a comment card, whatever the case may be, and and call it a day, man. Uh-huh. But even that, they still get all, oh no, that's just bullshit. It's so unfair.
Right.
Dude, just put on your taser on your belt, bro. And call it a day.
Call it good. Recently I was down in LA and my truck totally dies. I was on the 101 and it was 5:00 in the evening and my alternator went out on my truck. I'm in the third lane over. And at some point, I was able to just eke over, and there happened to be a shoulder right there. My truck totally dies. My battery dies out. So I let it sit for about a minute, turn it back on. I was able to get it back on, and luckily there was an off-ramp. Got on the off-ramp, and I got onto Ventura Boulevard, and my truck died, zero power. So I couldn't even get my four-way flashers on. I had nothing. And I'm sitting there on Ventura Boulevard, 5:00 at night, and everybody's coming up behind me and, I'm getting honked at. So I had no flashers. So I had to lift my hood and I'm sitting there. There's nothing going on. I'm not able to get anything. I can't get a hold of anybody. I couldn't even get, because everything's electronic anymore. I can't even get my truck into neutral to push it into onto the side of the road or anything like that. Luckily, there were two LAPD guys that show up, and they go, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said, "Oh, hey, my truck broke down, blah 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 blah." And I said, "Hey, just so you guys know, I've got a gun in the car. I'm a cop." They're like, "Yeah, you look it. It's fine." And I was like, "Oh, either it was cool that I didn't have the that I'm a cop, or the other side of the fact is that yeah, you're in LA, you should have a gun with you." So I don't know. I don't know what the. Luckily, they were cool. They helped me out. They called a tow. They were able to get me to where I needed to go, and everything worked out good. But they were absolute professional. They were cool guys, and they were getting close to shift change, but they were hanging out. Then another call came in. They're like, "Oh, someone else is picking it up," and they just made sure that I didn't get crashed into, or somebody come and try to take advantage of me or something like that. But they had no issue. I mean, they were absolute consummate professionals the whole time. So
that's awesome. It's good to know.
Yeah, because there's times that you talk to people down south, down in LA, and they're like, LAPD cops are just, arrogant jerks or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, man. I actually know quite a few that are good guys. There's a level of stress that working in the city such as that delivers to you.
Yeah, you know what? I'll always have said that, look, I can't speak for your prior encounters. I can't speak for, anyone else. I can only, pretty much speak for myself. And I can tell you that if you have any encounters with me, how I talk to you and how I treat you is no any different than I'm doing right now. And, I give respect where respect is due, and
right.
It's just unfortunate, but yeah, we have our we have our ups and downs when it comes to police work.
I mean, bottom line, we're all people, and when you're down there and you are surrounded by people that don't want to be held accountable and they don't like being told what they can or cannot do, then they're going to get grumpy, So
that's right.
So when they start just spewing all that hate and that grumpiness and whatever on the guys down there, they're human too, and they're going to give it back in kind sometimes. And so that's when, if they go just a little beyond what they're supposed to, that's when you guys are going to get involved as far as IA. But you can make that complaint. And so, yeah, I would assume that, maybe somebody says something or does whatever by, getting a complaint in there. They can easily say, I was having a bad day. I had a bunch of different things going on personally, and then I got yelled at when I got to work. You got told I get some crappy assignment. I got, a bad call where I just came back from a baby that
those
drowned.
are things people don't know. Yeah, they don't know that.
And so
your emotions are all over the place, man.
And so then when you guys are getting involved, okay, hey, you did this. Yeah, I did because I did this. This is what happened. Those are all circumstances that get taken into effect, correct?
Absolutely. Spot on, man.
And so that's just, we don't think about that, and everybody thinks, that you need to be nicer. You're right. You're right. I should be I should be a professional and nice, and at the same time, I'm a human, man. I'm a human.
That's right.
And it's
that's all we are, brother.
Yeah. So you go into that. You do that for a long time, and assuming just rewarding as it can be, right?
Absolutely. You know what? I've learned a lot. I got to tell you, man. There is, I'm a strong believer that, look, you should do a tour in IA just to learn a lot about, about discipline, about conflict,
right?
About what happens in-house.
Uh-huh.
I think that as you promote, to lieutenant or even a command staff officer, the most issues and the most challenges and conflicts you're going to have is with your employees.
Right.
That frequency is going to be pretty high, and you got to know, or you should, I shouldn't say you have to know, but you should, be able to be very well versed on disciplinary matters,
right?
And so I would always recommend, to get involved in discipline. As we were talking before we got on, I don't think this is a subject that's talked about enough.
Yeah.
A lot of podcast hosts talk about a lot of good things that we definitely need. And by the way, I really appreciate you and all the hosts that do this particular type of, podcasting in terms of law enforcement, because I really feel we don't do enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to internal issues, I believe there's a little bit of a lack, and that's why I'm here. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So you said that you doing this allowed you to instruct police misconduct and categorical use of force investigations. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
you understand. You're able to teach these guys what misconduct will be, because
absolutely.
we might have this idea. We all have this idea. I know what misconduct is. You do what you're supposed to. But when you're in the thick of it, you may not realize, if I do this one more thing, I'm stepping over the line. Right?
Absolutely. Even my beloved LAPD doesn't have a guest speaker or an instructor. I mean, give me a couple of blocks of hours to do this to our new recruits or our new officers.
Right.
To really let them know what misconduct is, because I can tell you that not many people even know the definition of misconduct.
Right.
And so I try very hard to get the word out there. Mm-hmm. Here I am, and we don't. And so that's part of the reasons why I connected with Scott, where we're hopefully I'm going to be part of that awesome team, and and get to instruct and teach these young officers and give them some awareness and some understanding of not only what misconduct is, but what this process is all like. Yeah. Now, if my beloved LAPD is not doing it, and we're like, you know how we are, we somewhat, well, I shouldn't say somewhat, for the most part, we set the standard. Mm-hmm. A lot of the agencies really lean on us for any, evolution of tools and practices when it comes to police.
Correct. I mean, you look at from SWAT to uniform standard,
yes,
to badge development,
body worn video.
Yeah.
In 2015, a lot of agencies were depending and waiting for our policy to come out so they can be implemented, in January of 2016. So,
mm-hmm.
So if there's a lack in my agency, my beloved, LAPD, I'm sure there's a lot of lack of understanding about misconduct and discipline in many agencies. And, I'm here for you, man, wherever they need me.
If you could Reader's Digest it down, what would you be able to explain as misconduct?
Well, let's see. First, let's go with the definition, right? It's 4 prongs. So so neglect of duty, right? NOD.
Mm-hmm.
You have criminal offense, obviously.
Yeah.
Violation of policy and procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least is what they call that conduct on becoming an officer. What that actually means is that, look, if you do anything, your conduct, mm-hmm. whether it's on duty or off duty, and it reflects so negative on the eyes of the department, yourself, and the entire public,
yeah,
guess what, man? That's misconduct. So don't go drinking, and get all crazy, jump on the bar, with your skivvies, and, go outside and, jump on a car.
Right. Smashing a windshield and
smashing windows with your so you're skinny and just getting out there. Oh my God. Hey.
Yeah. I can do what I want. I'm the cops, yo.
I'm a cop. Yeah. You, and then you're on your skivvies with your flip flops, with your hat, and you got your Sam Brown on you, and everybody's filming. Everybody is filming you.
Yeah.
Everybody has
a camera now. Yeah, exactly.
Guess what? They're going to cut a face sheet on you, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
so
gonna,
I would start.
You expect to be talked to soon.
Yeah. So I would start with that, right? Start with a definition, and then get the class involved, man. You know what? I'm all about engaging.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even tell you what misconduct is. You put me in front of a class. Okay, let's fire away, man.
Let
Tell
them
me.
come up with scenarios.
Exactly.
Okay, what if I'm doing this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good question. So that's where the engagement comes in. You know what? Who here can tell me what misconduct is? And then I'll just start writing stuff down, and next thing you know, we're going to have a good time, because probably half of the class we're all going to be laughing,
right?
And then we're going to be sharing war stories, which is good. War stories do have something good to come out of it, or bad, for that matter, right?
Yeah, but they say that you're going to learn more, you're going to remember more if you're having a good time with it. So if you can have fun with it, you can poke fun at yourself, you're going to remember that, way more than you're going to just remember some lawyer getting up there, DA, saying, if you do this, you're violating this code. Yeah. If you do this, you're violating
or death by PowerPoint.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah, my big thing, and I got this from Scott, to be honest with you, where you might have 3 or 4 slides, 5 slides maybe, but you talk, you explain things, you have the human factor. That's just a thing that they can look at.
Yes.
But it's that you don't have that being the sole thing that's delivering your information. You might have a bullet point, short bullet points, not big old long 3-sentence, 4-paragraph. Points.
Oh yeah, no, that sucks.
Yeah, so you don't want to kill them by PowerPoint, but explain things and be the human that you are, because that's what they're hoping. And then the more stories you get to tell, stories are another thing that brings people in. So if you can bring up scenarios, especially real scenarios. Hey, one time I did this. Well, if you were working for us, you'd be in violation.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
So no, I get that. That's so good to think of it like that. You know, because if you're not having fun with it, you're not going to learn. You're going to want to be there. The more you laugh and you're having a good time with it, and it's all fun and games too. However, remember, don't go doing those things. That's the thing that's going to knock you out faster than you think it's going to.
Yep.
So,
yes, sir.
And so then you retire. You get ultimately you spent your time in there. You do what you're going to do, and you've done your investigations from police misconduct or use of force or OISs or anything like that. And so then you retire. You decide, hey, I'm going to go do whatever it is I want to do. I'm going to go walk on the beach and just go paint my face at Venice Beach, and that's how you're going to be? Or did you kind of decide, hey, I want to continue this mission of doing this and helping other people out?
You were kind of close on the first.
Oh, yeah?
Venice is not the most attractive places. So
not anymore.
I wanted, I've been dreaming about going to Bora Bora for like the last 3 or 4 years.
Uh-huh.
So Bora Bora is it. Would I like to, be at Bora Bora 2 or 3 times a year and just chill and, hey, my pension's great enough, for me to do that? Absolutely not. And all of us, have our reasons why we pull the pin. We all have our unique circumstances.
Right.
For me, you know what? I just felt, the timing is right in terms of wanting to really put the voice out there for this type of experience and expertise.
Mm-hmm.
2, I did graduate law school 6 years ago, and I took the bar just recently, about a month ago. So I'm waiting for my results in November. And my union, luckily and fortunately, and I'm blessed that they'll actually hire me back to be a lead panel attorney.
Really?
Yeah, but they would actually gave me the go ahead to actually do it pre-license. With my league, there's a 5-year rule. You have to be a licensed attorney for you to even get involved in discipline,
mm-hmm.
police discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, they were luckily enough to allow me to do that while I'm waiting for my results. So, I'll continue to do my disciplinary stuff. Coaching is great. Watching my daughter go to college is fun. And of course, Milo, my little corgi, is my best friend. So we do go to the beach, and those walks are way more enjoyable now.
Right.
Knowing that I don't have to wake up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to go work an overtime shifts just to make my my bread.
That's exactly.
And
Especially
I was one of those cops where I depend on a supplemental income. I've been working overtime since 2002. That's 20 plus years of just working a lot, man, 6-7 days a week. And I'm in my 50s, and, it takes a toll on you. And I found other ways to, be an entrepreneur and do things on my own and venture and do great stuff. I mean, if you would have asked me, that would have met you and Scott and other people, in this type of environment, I would, I'm enjoying it so much.
Yeah.
But I probably would have told you, no, there's no way. I mean, I got a podcast coming out, which is one of the other projects that's I'm very excited about, which is basically breaking down. It's called Details, the breakdown. And it's exactly what it is. We're breaking down OISs. I really, truly feel I had a tour as a PIO,
mm-hmm. and
I always felt I've had this vision and this concept for quite some time where I really, truly feel that our public, our young officers, but more so the community, doesn't really know what officers go through when they get involved in an OIS.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
They don't. I don't think there's enough awareness. There's enough education.
Well, you see movies where the guy gets in a shooting, and then within the next scene he's going to have lunch, or he's going to,
exactly
do whatever.
Yeah, they don't know what the process.
That's not it at all. Absolutely.
No, not only that. And, so I'm doing a combination of both. I'm grabbing body worn video, from YouTube and kind of breaking it down and walking you through, some tactical issues and, things that do's and don'ts,
right.
We could have done better. I'm not there to pass judgment and scrutinize. It's already happened. And we can all agree that, every OIS is, it's good, bad, and ugly.
Right.
Yeah. And then I'm also going to bring in guests who have been involved in OIS, so they can tell their story,
right.
And I think there you go. So you're definitely going to be one of my guests to appear, because that in it itself, I really feel it's going to be therapeutic. I think it's going to be super educational for the public, from my audience. And I'm doing it in Spanish.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I personally feel it's going to be a big, big hit. It's going to impact a lot, because we just don't do enough for our Latino communities.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that one. And because
we just don't.
I think what it is there's a lack of education, a lack of knowledge that some of them have, because we don't do enough of it. Like you said, I just got back from a training, and we were talking about how in schools there's parent teacher nights, whatever, you don't see a lot of the Latino community there. The Hispanic kids don't tell their parents. They might bring the flyer home or whatever. Hey, they're doing a parent teacher night or whatever, and they don't show up. And you try to figure out, well, why not?
Yeah.
And then what happens was a lot of the kids would go home or they actually put a thing out just for the Hispanic classes and for the community, the Hispanic community, to come in, and we're going to have Spanish speaking speakers, and they're going to explain all these things. And so what they were doing is they brought them in, and they started showing them, hey, these are what report cards look like. This is what it is. And they would be like, say a kid brings home a report card that has an F on it, and they're saying, oh, no, that means he's doing fine. Oh, okay. And so they didn't know. They didn't, honestly, because, they came here, they haven't been in the country very long, or whatever the case was. The kids they know how to kind of finagle this whole thing so that it looks like they're doing great, and the parents, they don't know any other way. So then you bring them in, and we would explain, this is what report card is, this is what this grade means, this is what this one means, and then the whole thing, and then all the other, these are what we're doing. And then all of a sudden, these kids, we say, hey, when you wear that kind of hat, or that in that fashion and all stuff, like, that's gang attire, and so this is what that means. And all of a sudden, they're like, they look at their son and their daughter, they're like, you're going to take that off right now. You're not in a gang, and the kids are like, what? You're not supposed to explain this to them? Because they would just say that, hey, I'm just being this way. This is just a fashion. Yeah. No. So do you have any any books on the horizon? You looking at, writing anything, or you just looking at getting that podcast going, or?
No, actually, I just had an inquiry. We spoke on the phone for, we got to get a book out, man. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah,
and that would be great, because I think it's a totally untapped concept or topic that we don't talk about enough. We all fear it. We all know that it exists, at least in the first responder world, police world, but I don't think we understand the depth of it, like you're talking about, the misconduct.
Absolutely.
And how to go about doing it.
Brother.
So anything else going on? Anything else that we need to, how could we get a hold of you? How can we find you if we wanted to talk to you, or had questions for you, or get you on a podcast, or book you for a speaking gig? Because you're, like you said, you're bilingual. You can do this in Spanish or English.
I sure can, man. So whatever you need me, man, I'm here for you. So you have my number, so more than welcome to pass my number off whoever you would feel that would like me to come in as a guest, or to speak, or or to even teach, to do an instructional course, for whatever agency, whoever. By all means, had them all out. With that being said, we go with LinkedIn, where we met, right? Yeah. So it's Marlon, Marlon Marachi, Marrache. My IG handle is police discipline together. Let's see, Twitter, Marachi, Marrache 798, and Facebook, Marlon Marachi. My YouTube channel is going to be D capitalized with TAC or D/ or attack tails, TAILS, all capitalized. And last but not least, my website, www.policedisciplinetogether.com. So get a hold of me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great. And so everybody else that's listening in, we want to make sure you know that you can get a hold of us, the What's a Hero podcast. You can get a hold of us on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. Find us on there. You can, if you're not sure, maybe Marlon put these out too fast because he's such a eloquent, quick speaker that you didn't write it down in time. You can obviously rewind it and go back to it. Or you can get a hold of us. You can ask questions on our social media. We can get it to him. I will always put an advertisement for each episode out there. And when you get that one, go back to it and you can mention something on it, or you get a hold of me, or like he said, or on all of those, I will put links for all of your, all of his, websites and everything else like that, his social media as well. So you can get a hold of us there. You can get a hold of us, also find out every prior episode of the What's a Hero podcast on the What's a Hero podcast.buzzsprout.com. Every prior episode's linked to your favorite podcast platform, and it will take you right there, and you can download these. Downloading helps us. It's really cool. You have it with you when you go on an airplane, because let's say you're getting on an airplane and you got it because you're going to go watch Marlon Marachi speak at some conference, because he's the keynote speaker, because he's probably the best one you're gonna find. And you go there, but you're on the airplane, you got airplane mode. If you download it, it'll be on your phone. You don't have to worry about airplane mode. It'll be right there. So download our episodes, have them with you, share them with your friends, all that good stuff. I do want to say thank you so much to all of our people that serve other people, our teachers and our nurses, our firefighters, first responders of every kind, EMTs, and our police officers. You guys go out of your way to do the things you do to keep us safe, to keep us the country in which we live in, and it's very appreciated. Just watch yourself. Be cool. Be honest. Be who you are. The reason that you got into this is the reason that you need to be continuing to do this, not because you're wanting to be cool or you saw it on TV or you drive fast and carry a gun. Those are bonuses. The real thing is be honest, be true to yourself, and serve your fellow man, because that's what we're called to do on this planet. And to our veterans, same thing. Thank you so much for keeping our country safe and the country that it is. So, Marlon, do you have any final words? If you can put everything into a nutshell, leave people with one thing, what would it be?
Be flexible, be safe out there. Police work is not what it used to be. I applaud you for doing this awesome, noble profession. And just be happy, man. That's what life is all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Be happy, be honest, be cool.
That's right.
Yeah. So, for Marlon Marachi, I have been Ken Frownfelter, and this has been the What's a Hero podcast. We are clear.